Sorry about that. I was waiting to be co-host so I could unmute myself. We're good now. Thank you. It's 6 o'clock. Welcome to everyone who has joined. I appreciate the participation. I know the whole board does. A couple of different housekeeping issues. Because this is a regular CROA board meeting versus a workshop, we have all owners' comments regardless of the topic at the very beginning of the meeting. Once the meeting is called to order, everything is strictly the board conversation. So please be patient, and if you have any comments at all, please make sure that you have your say now. As a quick caveat, I want to make sure that everyone that is on here with regards to Spring Lake Garden Homes, if you sent an email to either myself or to management, your email was forwarded on to the entire board. I believe I made sure that each person that sent it, I believe I told everybody and we're included it on that forwarding. So if for some reason that did not happen, I apologize, but every email I received, I did send on for the entire board. We've had numerous workshops on it, but I know it's still a very hot topic. And for now, we will open it to owners' comments. A couple of reminders, 3 minutes maximum. I have David as my timekeeper. The board does not respond to public comment. This is strictly your time to say what you want to make sure is said, whether it be to the board or to the public at large, or owners at large. So on that note, you can either raise your hand on your keyboard or on your hand visually, and I will ask the board to help with that. So again, I will open this to public comment, please. 3 minutes limit. Anyone? I don't see any hands.
I don't see any hands yet.
Going. Okay, very good. Then I will at this moment go ahead and notify, oh, I just see a hand now. Heather Smith, go ahead. Go ahead, Heather.
Okay, sorry, I was not sure how to unmute myself, and I'm sorry I missed the very beginning of this. I am with Spring Lake, and I know a lot of people have been talking about this on our Facebook page, and I guess I'm just curious because I don't believe I got a notification on how to email in and discuss the price increase, which seems excessive.
This particular conversation, as I mentioned at the very beginning, this is just an open public comment. Emails and things like that, I believe it was all sent through our through the service area. So if you have an email on file, that's how it was done. The workshop was actually last week, and then a message was sent out to all of the residents at Garden Homes with our email, and obviously you have Tim's information. So if anybody sent an email to Tim, which is the service area coordinator, that message was also forwarded on to the CROA board. But if you have anything specific, you have a 3 minute, right now you may speak and say anything you wish to within a 3 minutes for the CROA board or for residents and owners.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Heather. And any other comments? And again, you can raise your hands. Thank you, Steve Northridge, for your quick little, your quick message. Just all you have to do is hit participants and raise your hand. Any comments? Okay, gone. Again, this is the end of the public comment. No more residents are able to speak. This is strictly a board meeting now. Could we please verify that the meeting was properly noticed? Management?
Vanessa, the meeting for Florida state law was noticed in excess of 48 hours prior, so you're good to go.
Thank you very much, Neil. Do I have a pledge of allegiance?
A quorum.
Oh, verify quorum. Sorry about that. Yes, the meeting was noticed. Do I have a quorum? I believe we have Diana, we have Brian, we have David. I think I saw Kevin on here.
Diana.
And Diana, do we have Marianne or not? I don't remember if she was able to make it this evening or not. Okay, So we have 5, so we're good.
She was going to try.
Yes, thank you. So we do have quorum verified. David, would you like to say the pledge for me?
Sure.
Thank you. Everybody stand, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, David. That sounded much better than everybody talking at the same time. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Call the meeting to order. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, David. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Okay. Then we will go ahead and do I have a motion for approval of the minutes for 10/28/2020 and the CROA workshop 10/2/2020, 10/7/2020, and 10/30/2020. Again, these were all reviewed ahead of time by the board. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
I can second.
Thank you, Diana. Any comments or questions from the board with regards to the minutes for a workshop or a meeting?
No, you said we reviewed them ahead of time, so
Perfect. Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Then I will open this to committee reports. Any board liaisons have any reports for ARC, Covenants, Dog Park Finance, Recreation, Special Events? Oh, speaking of dog park.
This is Brian.
Go ahead.
Well, the issue with technology that we've got a action on item on later is Teams. But also I learned that with the concert last week, the live streaming, there were bandwidth issues. Actually, Patrick sent an email about it today, but Jim Hayes had spoken with me yesterday, and the technology committee would like to work with Town Hall to help us cure the bandwidth issues and whatever we need to do. So I was hoping, I don't think we need a motion, but I was hoping the board was in agreement that it would be good to have technology committee work with Patrick and solve this for our future concerts.
think that's-
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think it's fair to get a consensus on that.
Particularly as we're moving to multiple, doing something live and virtual at the same time, and for the coverage and for recording, I think, well, not recording, the live stream, I think that's important.
If there's anything that we need to actually do a motion on, we have our meeting on December the 4th, which I believe is ahead of the holiday program too, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
I see Jim Hayes and Tom Hull. Charge.
Any other comments or questions regarding or from committee members? Again, ARC, Covenants, Dog Park, Finance, Recreation, or Special Events? You already commented on technology. Was there anything else regarding technology, Artisan Park, or any of the service area committees?
No.
Board?
No?
Very good. Liaison reports. CCDD, Osceola County, or Island Village. Any updates? Brian, I think you had your meeting yesterday. Did you want to have anything?
Let me start with CDD. They had organizational meeting yesterday, so let me brief everybody on the call on a few items. The chairperson for the new year is Greg Vilak. The vice chair is Paul Collins. The secretary is Cassandra Starks. The treasurer is Cliff Akey. And the most important person, who's the CROA rep, is Jack McDonald, who I see on there. Jack.
McLaughlin.
Oh, I'm sorry, McLaughlin. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're in trouble.
Okay, not the most important. Sorry, Jack. Okay, a few other items. Town center decorations. We agreed to, or we being CCD agreed that this year they would pay Lexan to about $5,500 to put up the decorations and take them down. There's going to be a project in January to March of next year to figure out a long-term strategy for how to do the holidays so that we don't always have this conversation and have no chance but to do something quickly. And we will be invited to be part of that as a CROA board and CCS board, so make everyone aware of that. CCD, in talking about reserves and unassigned funds yesterday, said they have about $6 million, and reserves and unassigned funds, which can be used for any project that the CCD board so decides to use them for. They don't have restrictions like we do with the replacement reserves. So CCD is well funded and strong there. That's a good thing. They are rebidding street cleaning right now. They're getting bids for doing 4 times a month, 6 months a year, like during heavy leave season and stuff like that, and then twice a month on the other months. So it would be 36 times a year. An issue came up that I want to make Neil aware of and others. Island Village has a retaining wall, and this is the first time I'd heard about it yesterday. And there's conversation going on between the county, Mattamy, and I guess CCDD about who takes care of the retaining wall. And the conversation was, well, should it fall to CROA? And I'm not sure why it would be CROA, but I don't know that we've been part of the conversation. And I would encourage Neil that we need to become part of this conversation and know what we're even talking about here.
Brian,
Yes.
I'm actually gonna interrupt on that one really quick because I think this is very important to make a strong stand on this. We have never, as CROA, accepted a retaining wall. Typically ponds, retaining wall, retention wall, anything like that has gone to CCDD, not to a CROA. So that's not a homeowner issue. I just want to make sure that that Neil has, unless there's a board member on here that has a differing opinion on that, I think it's pretty important we speak up now on that.
And I thought it was important that Neil reach out to Gary and we get to become part of the conversation.
The only question I have is on whose property is it? Where is that particular property deeded?
I'm not, I mean, it was.
I know, but that, to me, that helps define it.
And the last item I was going to bring up is there's a new Osceola County Sheriff that'll take over January 1. And the CCD board is talking about the possibility of adding community policing again, and at least starting the conversation and see if it makes sense or not. So those were the main items from yesterday that I wanted to brief everybody on.
Thank you, Brian. Any comments or questions from regarding either Brian or any other liaison report information?
Just a dovetail, I know it's to what Brian just said. The CDD board met yesterday in its first meeting of this new board. So I would like to offer congratulations to Jack for his election, to Cassandra for her election, and to Greg for his election. So
Thank you, David.
And I very much look forward to the CDD board and to the new people, if you will, new people to that board. So congratulations, and we look forward to a good collaboration. Jack, I look forward to your involvement as liaison to CROA. I think you know a lot about CROA. He's just nodding his head. He's nodding his head and smiling.
Thank you. And thank you very much, Jack, for the quick little, there was a question. Retaining wall is 220 feet. Oh my word. And it's in length and it is, or it's 2,200 feet. Wow. In length and will be on multiple properties, similar to the retaining wall for the Artisan Park condos and the retaining wall along East Lawn. Thank you for that clarification, Jack. I appreciate that. And on that, we can move on from liaison reports to financial review.
Vanessa, just to back up, if I may, any update on Island Village on the, there was a meeting that I missed not too long ago, 2 weeks ago, maybe. And I know there was a meeting with the schools. Is there any update for the residents on that? Or is it, the answer is we don't know yet?
I guess we'll go to management, or Brian, if you have any insight.
As far as, I mean, the schools, there was a meeting. I could not make it. I had a conflict too, but I know that the schools have been pushed out to about 2023. They're still actively going forward. Greg Filak was on that call, I believe. And so at 2023, there are plans underway and it's moving out. And I think they're even still finalizing exactly how it would lay out in the land, if it might take a little more, a little less land and stuff like that. So I think we need to have an Island Village meeting from a CROA perspective to get briefing on a few things, but that's moving forward. We have been told that they are actively building houses and plan on starting selling houses in the first quarter of 2021. So they're moving forward fast. as I understand it.
Thank you.
David, we have some updates with respect to the school. I'd be lying if I took credit. Greg Felak's connection with the school district. We actually had a meeting and a presentation and a follow-up. I thought I saw Greg logged in. Greg, if you want to chime in, if not, I can just kind of rehearse the touch points that you circulated afterwards.
Greg, if you are on, I know you're on, we can unmute you. Let me see here. Where are you at? Assistance from fellow board members just to unmute him. No, I saw him.
I don't see him. He's gone.
He must
he was
have,
on.
yeah,
He must have just checked
earlier.
out. I think Susanna, did
Mr.
you have a comment too?
Oh, I was at the meeting too. I was just going to provide some of the dates, but Neil can do it.
Yeah, I mean, real quick. So right now, design starts in early 21 with opening to students in fall of 2023. CROA is going to have the opportunity to provide input on design to ensure it matches and keeps up with community standards and themes. School board finalized its contractual relationship with Mattamy and TCC to facilitate the donation of the land and the school development. School design was modeled after Neo City and Highland schools. The board is aware of traffic issues at K-8 being a neighborhood school and is planning on mitigations and is ready to work with Celebration with respect to planning and ideas. 80-20 split for Celebration students will be maintained for this new school. This will fall into the master agreement with the school board. And Terry, who is our point of contact, will circulate that. School board agrees to take up to 300 students from Island Village at Celebration K-8 through Celebration High School until the new school is completed. And our contact, so it's Teresa Castillo or Terry Castillo, is open to regular discussions and updates as progress is made and the school board begins its workshop. So again, all credit to Greg, that was his contact. So very, very friendly, very exciting. Susanna was really excited about the design.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Any other, thank you very much, Neil. I appreciate that update from everybody. Any other comments or questions? Perfect. Then let's go ahead. Brian, you have comments on your financial review.
Sure. Make this pretty quick and easy. We have, again, our position is strong. If you look here, you can't see where I'm waving, I doubt, but we have revenues are under budget by 211,000, but the expenses are under by 271,000 due to the COVID and the fact that we just didn't have programs affected expenses a lot. And we were also, from the perspective of Island Village being delayed, we didn't get assessments that we thought we might get, but we're still at 60,000 cash profit for the year and doing strong there. If you look at the cash at September, you can see cash has been building nicely for the year. We've still got operating expense cash of $1.5 million. We've got restricted replacements of $1.7 million. The capital improvements are at 816. Now in October, we paid $245,000 to the CCD for our final payment on the road by the Civic Corridor. So that'll go down a couple $100,000 at the end of October. And we got a contingency of 500. So, and Celebration Community Services has got 103,000. So cash wise, we're doing fine. I'd like everybody to be aware on the board and the public, the finance committee, has been reviewing our investment guidelines, which were last developed in 2011. We'll be getting a whole update on the investment guidelines. Probably we're going to finalize them in December, publish them to the board. We have to decide if we want to have a board workshop or just approve them at the January board meeting. That's something the board will have to decide. So we're moving forward to do an update of that whole thing because it's been 10 years. And if you look at total assessments receivable, it's down to 408,000 at September, which is actually the lowest point this year. So assessments have not been an issue. They've been going strong too. So we're in good shape. That's it, Vanessa.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to unmute myself unsuccessfully. Sorry about that. Thank you. Any other comments or questions regarding the budget and financial review? Brian, thank you to you and the Finance Committee for all your hard work on this. It's really appreciated. Management report. Anything you'd care to share beyond the report, Neil? Anything you'd like to highlight?
Sorry, I was just trying to get through the financial package to get to the management report. No, the just for our members that are participating in the meeting today, the management executive director report that was sent to the board, it included the 2021 budget updates, and we had CROA and CJC yesterday, both budgets approved on their part. CCS approved theirs prior to this, and then we will proceed with CROA. So again, I've echoed this a couple times. Brian, thank you for welcoming me on board. It's definitely a different process, but seeing the end of it now, and it's starting to fall in line with all, well, as David says, the alphabet soup. It's been very rewarding, and it's kind of nice to see it from beginning to end, especially being new. So the board received just a brief update on the budgets. Lifestyle events, we continue to try to navigate COVID limitations, concert, drive-through events, etc. I commend JR and his team for continuing to do after-action reports for every event. I don't think there's anybody that's getting comfortable. And in fact, some off conversations, workshops, our board members are in the same boat with us. We're continuing to try to find ways where we might not be ahead of this thing. Ahead of it as best as we can with mitigation. Island Village, again, same kind of updates. 88 lots been platted. Hopefully first quarter 2021, we can start seeing some first sales come through. And then personnel, it's been my understanding historically, kind of any personnel items is usually kind of kept, I guess, quiet and just between the board and the management team. But you know, our homeowners, they recognize when faces change. So I just wanted to let everybody know that, again, Suzanne McLeod has taken over as our community manager position. We sent off Susan Kearns on October 30th, had a potluck, wished her all the best, gave her some gifts. Jessica Bonilla stepped in as our standards manager, well earned. And we are currently pending and researching a business office manager to help supplement not only the executive director, the community manager, but our treasurer and our finance committee. So modifying that a little bit, but just if our homeowners see new faces, see different names on emails, that's where we are right now.
Thank you, Neil. I appreciate that. Any board comment, questions?
I got one. I'd like to, Neil, just single out JR, Nikki, and your team. The concert this time in November was outstanding. Spacing was really great. It was more full than last time. I think what we did with the waiting list and everything really worked well. I've heard no complaints. I've heard lots of compliments. I mean, the biggest complaint is people want to live stream it, even want better bandwidth, which is a nice problem. So it was a success. You guys did a really great job.
Thank you very much, Brian. And I kudos on that one too. I did hear nothing but positive feedback from residents that attended. Any other comments from the board with regards to the management report or any other questions?
All good.
Thank you very much. Then on that note, let's move on to action items. Do I have a motion to approve? Oh, and I think I saw Marianne on too, so you can make her a co-host too, Patrick, just if you can. I see we have all 6 board members on now. Yay. Okay, just in time. Yeah, go ahead.
Action items 1 and 2, and I'll make the motion.
So Brian is motioning for the CROA and the CJC audit together. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second. This is Diana.
Diana's got it. Good.
Thank you very much. Do I have motion in a second, right? Okay. Discussion?
Let me just briefly, the finance committee has met with Cole and Associates, had a great meeting with them where they came in. We did a Zoom meeting where we met with him and his number 2 on the audit and everything. They've kept the rates consistent with the prior year, so there's no increase. Service levels are good, in line with what we expect for how we use them. So you've got the finance committee and the treasurer saying strongly recommend.
Thank you, Brian. Any other comments or questions before I call the vote? Then I will call the vote. Diana?
Yes.
Marianne?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Motion passes. Do I have a motion to approve the CJC budget for 2021 with gross revenues expenditures of $1,643, $43,851? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, no, go ahead, David.
Second. Good man.
So David, I guess, and questions, comments?
Well, we've already approved CROA. I guess we had to do this one and just forgot to do it in the prior month. Is that what happened?
I think we were waiting for everybody else to approve theirs too. So that's why it looped back. We wanted to make sure we didn't have any edits. Okay, so then I'll just call the vote since there's no comments. Brian?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Marianne?
Yes.
Diana?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
And I'm yes. Discussion to finalize the Spring Lake Garden Service Area budget. I will leave it as a motion to discuss because I think then we can modify accordingly. So do I have a motion to discuss the Spring Lake Garden Service Area budget? As a reminder, this conversation is only for CROA board members. It's not open to public comment. Your conversation at the beginning and all the emails received is where we appreciate that very much. Thank you for giving us your thoughts and opinions on that. So do I have a motion?
I'd like to encourage management to give an overview just for the audience, so I'd make the motion to discuss.
Thank you. Do I have a second for discuss?
This is Marianne. I'll second for discussion.
Thank you, Marianne. Then I will open it up. Management, could you please provide an update and your thoughts with regards to what we have in front of us? As a quick recap, though, we've had a couple of workshops regarding this, and then we had one on Friday. I would like to personally apologize because we only had 45 minutes. We extended it to just before our workshop. I know that there were a lot of residents that wanted to share their thoughts. I apologize, my dinging. There were lots of residents that wanted to share their thoughts. Because of the time limitation, we actually requested that that the service area manager send an email to all of these Spring Lake Garden home owners to encourage them to send us emails so that everyone that had an opinion and a thought and wanted to share it with the board, they had those opportunities to make sure that we heard what you were saying. And thank you very much for everybody that sent an email or on a couple occasions made phone calls. So on that, I'll open it up to management to provide an update.
We're gonna let Tim Prescott, our service area manager, go ahead and initiate, and then Susanna and I will be here if there's any other kind of inputs that we can help to support the board.
Thank you. Tim, are you on? Somebody needs to unmute him, I think, because it's because of the way we have it situated. Can somebody please unmute him? One of the board, I think Patrick needs to do that.
He's trying, I think.
Okay, I hear, Tim, you're on, I think. Can you? Tim? You're not muted on our end.
He's not muted.
Is your phone muted or your computer?
Can you hear me now?
Ah, there we go. Yes.
Now you got it. All right.
And no echoes.
All right. Hopefully this is the last issue I have with the phone. All right. So Kevin wanted an overview of what we were looking at there. So yeah, there you have all your landscapers that I submitted all the RFPs to. So the numbers that you do see are what they feel that would do to keep up and maintain the Spring Lake Gardens landscaping. And also included in that's the admin fee and plant replacement and irrigation repairs.
So I was going to say, so just to be clear, we've had a couple of workshops on this. We've also reached out because there have been some emails expressing concerns that the CROA board has not been keeping the area to standards. We have had a couple of conversations with our CROA attorney also to make sure that the CROA board is ensuring that we are doing our obligation as a board. So on that, I'll open it up. Susanna, you were going to say something, and Neil?
Well, yes, just that there had been the communication, the workshop with the Spring Lake garden homeowners and some of the committee members about, questions about the admin fee, questions about landscaping services and the costs of that. And, of course, other questions about, as a service area in itself. And, they had proposed some different numbers for admin fee. What we did have the attorney there to kind of back up the legal history on those items. And so then I think they had been presented with this bid comparison, and the latest landscaper to be added to that was Exquisite. And so the question was still on to which landscaper would be chosen to do the work.
And just to be clear, Exquisite was requested to be bid upon because the service area committee had requested that they be added, correct? Because they felt that the bids were too high and they wanted to see if Exquisite would bid. And they were willing to bid because they want an in celebration. Is that an accurate assessment?
I believe so, right, Tim?
Yes.
Then on this, I will open this to any board comment or any further management insight.
Vanessa, do you mind if I chime in real quick just before the board speaks?
Please.
Being new, I had the benefit of coming into this without the corporate memory and kind of the day-to-day that Tim and Susanna and other team members had. So, and board, this is going to be repetitive to you. However, there were some great points that got brought up from homeowners, and some of those points were that decisions may have been made in the past purely to keep numbers down, artificially deflated to kind of keep people happy, and that in itself compromised the service levels. There was also some other feedback from homeowners that the existing contracts in place, that there was a lack of management oversight to ensure the landscapers were, I guess, keeping the standards up. And in that case, landscapers over the years, it's my opinion that their scopes weren't being met, not because they couldn't do the work, but because they didn't bid to actually do the work completely. And when I say that is, there's oftentimes, and this is not a criticism or an attack on any vendor, this industry it's pretty prevalent that most businesses, they believe in themselves and they will underbid something initially because they think they can do better, and then they can come in and they can kind of put their stamp on it and then grow their business beyond their entry-level positions. For whatever reason, this particular scope, that hasn't been met by numerous landscapers over the years. My recommendation to the board was, in cases like this, it's critical they default back to their duty of care that's outlined in the governing documents and the bylaws. And in this case, the biggest precedence and priority is this service area, their contract and their scope for landscaping, it needs to be held to the architectural standards of celebration. Each of these bids that came back, each one of these companies feel that they can now do this based on these new numbers. I would also be dishonest if I said to the homeowners in the past that I really do believe some of the bids that they had received previously were grossly underbid just to get the business. That's nobody's fault. But I think it's important the homeowners understand management is making recommendation that the board approve a contract based on the scope being executed more than anything else. That's not to say that I'm not sensitive to people's income and their monthly and quarterly dues, et cetera. But for the feedback that came in, the board kind of had no choice. They now have to appoint and or approve a contractor that's going to get this service area up to the standard these homeowners expect and they should expect. So a little bit long-winded, a lot of repetition for some of you because you've heard this before, but all concerns, as Vanessa outlined, have been circulated to all board members and the management team. And as the executive director, I can't feel comfortable not giving the board a recommendation. So again, the recommendation was architectural standards have to be the priority because they've not been met previously. So Vanessa, that's it. I just wanted to make sure we were transparent with where the recommendations from management were coming from.
Thank you, Neil. I appreciate that.
Sure.
On this, I'll open this up to board conversation or board conversation / motion beyond just discussion.
Yeah, I'll start a conversation. I know that we did talk about this in our workshop last Friday, I think it was, most recently. To me, the highest priority is the community standards. We maintain that as a board. When we see gaps, we try to fill that. This is a gap that has been identified by us and by residents. So to me, we need to do all that we can to bring that area up to the standards. And so as we're looking at these companies, I think there's also the part of who has a proven track record. So I think both of those are important, and that helps to guide my my decision on this. Again, bringing it up to standards. Now this would be, so I'll need some guidance on this from Neil or Susanna or Tim. As we approve this, the contract that then gets signed is for what length of period? Is it a 1-year contract? Is it 2 years? Is it 3 years? I don't know.
They've been 2 years.
Typically, so to me, we give it the best effort we can. We'll see how that plays out. If we need to ratchet it up, fine. If we need to try to trim, then we can adjust. But I think we need to give it the best start, or I should say, restart at this point.
Thank you, David. Any other board comments or questions?
I probably look at this 2 different ways. I think New Leaf is clearly the most expensive, but I think they're the most risk-less option we have because they've done other areas in town. They have a track record. They know what we're doing. I would rather do 1 year than 2 years if we go with New Leaf. They've got people they can redeploy and move around and stuff like that. I'd like to make sure we could actually get it done. If we were to go with Exquisite, I don't think Exquisite will get us to a celebration standard. And my biggest concern is, the emails keep talking about a celebration standard and the big increase. But I think one of the reasons we're talking about a big increase is Yellowstone as an example. And I suspect others before that have given discounts and then not allocated the proper resources. Okay. So I think we have the issue of the landscaper. I think we have the issue of the allocation of resources. And Neil and I talked today, I think we've also got an issue of we need to do a better job from a management perspective of providing oversight. We got Tim, but I think Susanna in her role needs to spend more time out there. And Neil told me he thought he would spend more time. We can't just say we got a meeting, we're going to make a decision, we're done, and we'll come back to this in a year. We actually have to figure out how to solve this, and that is a concern of mine too.
Thank you, Brian. Any other board comments before I make a comment?
To me, there's one other, it's a different slice on this, is it something that we started to help me on the timing, maybe 2 years ago, was the whole idea of service area committees. We've had service areas from the beginning, but having committees is something new. And Susanna, we have maybe 5 service area committees, maybe 6 right now of all the service areas. So this is a new operation. Service area committees, we look forward to working with. All committees, service area, architectural review, all of these technology are all recommending bodies to the board. So, we want to involve service area committees. And I think to Brian's point, as we move forward in the next year, as we're more closely monitoring, working with the service area committee as a conduit, another source of information that, if you will, another set of, if you will, multiple eyes.
Thank you, David. Any other comments from the board?
This is Mary Ann.
Go ahead, Mary Ann.
I just want to, I liked something Brian said. And I think that is in this, to do a 1-year contract this time. I know that's a pain in the behind, but I think it's a wise choice because of all the issues that have been because of the history. So that's just my comment, is that I rather favor that idea that he put forth about a 1-year contract.
Thank you, Marianne. I think that's, I agree with that, with those consensus on that. Any other comments with regards to this? Diana, I just saw you come out. Did you have a comment, Diana?
I did. You know, my big concern with this is the amount of the increase that we're asking the residents to bear. It's a big increase, especially given world circumstances, especially Orlando circumstances. But I also understand that we have to get the area up to standards, and we are not there. I agree with both what Marianne and Brian said about a one-year contract, because I think that puts us even more on point, making sure that we're monitoring the performance on a short contract, because it'll be up for renewal again quickly. And if it's not happening, then we can go back and try it. But I think we have to go with it at this point, with get the area up to standard, and then look at it again quickly to make sure that we've gotten what we're paying for, and then continue with the process.
Thank you, Diana. I think Kevin's on here. Kevin, did you have any comments?
Of course I do. How is everybody? So overall, I'm looking at just a couple of things here, and correct me where I may be mistaken, because I missed the workshop on this. We have Yellowstone, there's New Leaf, and there's Exquisite. Are those the three options that are continuing right now?
There are others, but yes, those are the three that
core
those are the core. Yes, those are the core.
Okay, so out of those, do we use Exquisite anywhere in Celebration currently?
No.
Okay, we do have Yellowstone, clearly, they're one of our biggest, and we also have New Leaf. So I actually was going through, and one thing that when Brian and I stepped on, we ended up working to have a metric that I think has come very handy over the years to go ahead and evaluate different areas of the community and the landscaping, from the maintenance neutral party, which would be CCMC. Before it was Todd, now we have Mike that's going out there. And I go ahead and I evaluate just on what we know. And we know Yellowstone, we know New Leaf, right? Based on those reports. So I go ahead and I look and I say, all right, where is Yellowstone looking at their reviews? Where are they failing? Where are they doing okay? And they're coming out as a 1.7 over in Spring Lake between October, throughout October, is where their score is based on Mike's feedback. Now, I go ahead and I look at New Leaf in other areas and I see a 2. Okay, so we have 0.3 is where we're looking for that difference when we look at it overall. If I go ahead and I go back a year, just looked at June 2019, a random one that I picked up, I see that obviously Yellowstone has declined a bit. They were at 1.9 in June of last year. Now, if we have a single family home or condo complex, whatever the case may be, CROA is pretty quick to go ahead and address that issue, address anything that wouldn't be that celebration standard, which we're all looking for, and I think everybody wants to see. So my concern is, or my question rather, is what has our agent, what has CCMC as a management company done to go ahead and increase the services and correct that 1.9 from going down to a 1.7? Why hasn't that turned around and gone up to a 2.2 and growing better? You know, landscape it grows crazy down here in Florida, right? But the reality is we can catch certain things, especially when we have eyes on it. I just have a hard time, and I do not think this is necessarily true, but I think there's a perception that this community is distant sometimes. It's not a community that a NEV can legally drive to, which is what our inspector team uses most often. They do, of course, use the pickup truck or another vehicle that they may need to go ahead and do that inspection. But are we truly giving it the attention, and is it the responsibility of the owners to have a significant increase like this before we And our agent has done the right thing, and I say that with respect, to really turn this around, because we saw it wasn't doing well. And we renewed this contract last year. And now, what changed without turning it around? What work have we done throughout this year? I have a hard time at this increase, and I have a hard time that the individuals that pay the bill are just basically stuck with this large bill. It's a lot of money per square foot for their yard sizes, and I feel for it. I understand facts are facts, but that's why I kind of went back to those ratings and reviews over the last year, and that was just a random one that I picked, and I'm sure I wouldn't see much different overall. But the difference between New Leaf to Yellowstone, I don't see worth the difference in dollar.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate your thoughts and your insight on this. I want to make sure everybody had their. I think everybody had their say, and we'll go through. I'll share a couple thoughts. First, I feel horrible about this whole thing. I really do. I don't know anybody that's on this board right now that is thrilled about the service that Spring Lake has received, whether it be townhomes or garden homes. I'll be totally honest with you. I was on the board in 2015 to 2017. We're having the exact same conversation. So those emails that we've been getting, first of all, thank you for being engaged in the process and sharing your thoughts and views with the board. I know sometimes it doesn't come across that we're hearing you, but we really are. We feel horrible that we are all in this situation. It's not just you, it's we. It's the management, it's the CROA board, it's the whole service area committee, it's all of Spring Lake, and it's the garden homes. And I truly believe that it is up to us to try and figure out how to problem solve this. I know you all feel that we have not been listening, but we really have. We're frustrated because we're left with this. And I think that it was lost when we were having the conversation in the workshop, because we were trying to cram everybody's thoughts and feelings and emotions and trying to give you your due in a really small period of time. And for that, I apologize. And I'm sure the board as a whole feels the same way. We would have loved to give you more time. We need to make a decision as to how we need to move forward on this contract. And we're all left in a situation. Ultimately, I feel badly because you're the ones, regardless of the decision that this CROA board makes, that you're the ones that are paying the bills. But you've also, every single email that we have received has said, you, CROA board, needs to be at community standard in our home. Our homes need to look like everyone else's in Celebration. I haven't heard anyone that has said that that is anything that they are interested in having. They want their homes to look like everyone else's. And I think it is the CROA board's responsibility, whether it be with New Leaf, with Exquisite, or any vendor we choose. It is our CROA board that needs to step up and make those decisions to make sure that your homes look just as good or better than everyone else's. More importantly, you need to look at just like the other service areas we have. We have beautiful service areas. You need to have that same representation. And I feel badly that the builder put the situation that we're in. And I'll be honest with you, I've said this publicly numerous times. We were forced as a CROA board to take this the way it was. It's not the best situation. So I apologize that that's the situation we're in, but we need to make a decision moving forward on this. Brian, go ahead.
And that's fine. Susanna, when you looked at New Leaf, Yellowstone, and Exquisite, what was the difference? And Yellowstone had it before at 88. So what is Yellowstone at 115 going to do different than they did before? How did Exquisite compare to what Yellowstone was going to do, and New Leaf compare to that? I mean, I'm just following through on Kevin's question. So what is the real difference between the three? Because if management were going to say New Leaf is the best, how did you compare it to say, I understand the difference between the funding levels for the three?
So based on what Tim had, am I off mute? Can you hear me? Okay, so based on what Tim had said by meeting with the different vendors, because he walked with each one in Spring Lake before they submitted their bid, that it was based on labor. And so, you know, that goes back to the previous comments about, you know, when the previous companies, it was Davy, then it was Proscape, then it was Yellowstone, coming in and thinking that they knew how much work it would take to take care of Spring Lake. And as we've seen for all three companies, that they did not have the resources on hand to do that. So the new bids, when Yellowstone said, you know, we don't want to continue at the price that we have, because we have learned that it takes more people and more resources and funding to bring this to the standards. I know that Tim can talk more about this, but Kevin was talking about the difference in the scores and what management has done. He's issued 3-day notices several times, and that is the caveat in the management contract that says if you're not performing, we issue a 3-day notice, and you have to perform within that 3 days, or we take measures. And of course, the other action is that you fire the landscaper. So I believe that all the companies have come back and said it's about labor. It's about labor force and how many people you have on hand to do the work. And I think that we've seen that that's what drives those costs up, is how many people they feel like they need to do the work.
Thank you, Susanna. Go ahead, Brian. Or did you have more? Do you have a follow-up, David? Or, I apologize. Just a second. Actually, it's Brian's question. I apologize.
Go ahead, Brian.
Do you have a follow-up?
No, go ahead, David.
Okay.
No, it's just a clarification. It kind of goes to that same theme. When you look at those three and you look at itemized costs, I mean, frankly, if you look at pruning, New Leaf is 4 times the amount per year as Exquisite. On the other hand, Exquisite is 3 times as much for mulching. Am I reading that right? And if I am, why such a difference? And bottom line is, will any vendor be held to the same standards of what we want pruning to look like and mulch to look like and weeding to look like, et cetera? I mean, that seems like across the board, they're all over the place. Or is that just how they threw things? I mean, anyway, when you go into that micro piece, help me understand that.
Well, Tim can probably talk better on the line items since he created the spreadsheet. But yeah, I mean, you're walking around with the contractor, you're giving them the scope of services. They come back with what they estimate it's going to cost to mulch, you know, labor to prune, to weed, and what their services are. So, you know, Exquisite, Brian, he's the owner. I know him. He's worked in Celebration quite a while. He worked downtown. He works for single family residences. So he has some experience. New Leaf probably might have an edge on that, or does, because they've done all our other townhomes. They do all the other service areas. So they're familiar with how those work and how to maintain them. So he probably had, Jacob had an edge on what the real costs were based on what he'd already done. Okay. But Tim can talk more about how the numbers were laid out here on the spreadsheet.
Tim, did you have any insight?
Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Can you hear me? Yeah, so I think the only differences was when it comes to these line items, where the numbers for what David was saying, how different they are, is just putting the boots on the ground. So each group will have, it looks like it would have more people working on a given day while they're there. So that would be the big difference. And how you were saying about New Leaf, like what Susanna was saying with New Leaf, when all the companies were there as well with New Leaf, everyone was walking on property saying how much work it actually takes out here. Because when I met with the committees, it wasn't just meeting with them. We actually walked the whole property as well before and after meeting with the committees. And all of them, each company would just say there is a lot of work. There is a lot of the shrubs and plants have grown up so much in the last few years that, you know, in the years past, their quotes weren't so high because of everything was so mature, and now everything's so much bigger and growing. There's just more work.
So Tim, when you walked it with both the the New Leaf, Yellowstone, Exquisite, the committee was with you, and it was you.
Yep.
Anybody else from management?
It was just me for management, yes. But yeah, we balked with the townhome committees and the garden home committees.
And did Exquisite tell you that they were going to use this as a loss leader, or what were their exact words?
Brian thought he wanted to be that one to bring it up to community standards and turn Spring Lake Gardens around. I mean, I've heard that same thing from New Leaf too, and a lot of the other landscapers that I talked to.
This is Mary Ann. I want to put a comment, just a solid fence sitting comment out on the table. So perhaps, since we're talking about a year contract, and we're also talking about what truly, you know, Diana is correct. It is a substantial sudden increase, and that's tough for homeowners. And here we are, we're trying to walk this tightrope between bringing it up to standards and not, you know, financially traumatizing anybody, right? I mean, I'm sure that's a little bit of an extreme statement about financially traumatizing, but causing any financial duress to people's budgets. Perhaps a middle of the road compromise and to take, and also a test to see how Exquisite would do, would be to give the contract to Exquisite for 1 year, and they either pass or they fail. Now, I realize that means another year of maybe or maybe not bringing it up to community standards based on whether or not they pass or they fail, but it also gives us an opportunity. I mean, New Leaf, we all know that's a proven product for us. We've seen their work, we're comfortable with their work. And, you know, so stepping away from that to an unknown when you're wanting to bring a community up to the standard it should be at, that those residents deserve, you know, that is a little bit, you know, it's like, makes you a little queasy because you don't know what the right decision is. But maybe, you know, given the parameters of a year contract, it's a way to start moving in that direction. And if it doesn't go to where it needs to be, the residents will also be aware that we'll probably be looking at the more expensive contract for the next round because of our duty of care to bring it where it needs to be. I mean, I don't know how anybody feels about that. That's just something I thought maybe needed to be said out loud for consideration and discussion.
I was actually.
Yeah, let me reloop back really quick, Brian. Sorry. Thank you, Mary Ann. I appreciate you putting something solid on the table. So on that note, I think it's fair to say there's two things I want to recap on. As a CROA board, we like to hear from our committee members. There's a reason why we have a service area committee. We like to hear their feedback. We want to hear their feedback. We also want to recognize the fact that we have a duty of care as a CROA board. And Mary Ann, you opened up some thoughts. Brian, you would want to go ahead and fill in there?
Well, I had been thinking about what Mary Ann had said before she said it, but I was even going with a slightly different spin, which is if we went with Exquisite for a 1-year contract, and then we get a quarterly report that is not done by management, but it is done by both management and the service area committee for Spring Lake Gardens. So it's a joint report. I strongly feel management has to be on top of this one. And then if it doesn't work, I think the answer's got to be New Leaf. And I honestly believe they'll do a good job, but I would like to try the other one first with very good quarterly reporting.
Thank you, Brian. I'm going to piggyback on that with, I think it's fair to say we have a 30-day out contract period. With every contract, we reviewed this a couple of years ago and have standardized contracts. CROA has a 30-day out for any contract we have. I think it's fair to say if we can do this, and we have New Leaf on backup, they're already doing the townhomes because they already did that. I think that we can have a quarterly review without any issues, and then just say, you know what, we need to switch if we have to midstream if Exquisite's not able to rise to that occasion. So on that note, I think I heard David's voice in there. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was going to go. When Marianne suggested that, I thought, okay, 1 year, but and then Brian said basically you said heavy monitoring. And so we also have an out clause. So, you know, I know we're getting into the dormant season. So this is the time to get started. And as things move through the spring and then the summer, you know, we're going to be watching very carefully. And if things aren't going well, then we can pull the plug midway through a 1-year contract with whomever we decide.
Does
Thank you,
Kevin
David.
have an opinion?
I'm sorry, I'll open this up to, I think Diana and Kevin are the two that have not spoke with regards to this particular thought process.
I have one question and one comment, I suppose. For management, there are several mews within that area that are maintained by Yellowstone. Is that correct? That is, I got a shake. So
Yes.
Yes. So Yellowstone still oversees the garden homes right now, and they do the mews on the garden home side, including the pool.
okay, and that would stay the same regardless of this changing vendors or not, correct?
No, whoever is picked to do the landscaping in the garden homes will take over the mews and the pool area.
And again, I'm trying to figure this out. I was understanding that there are mews that were actually almost counting like CROA parks. And that would be through the entire community-wide landscaping. Is that true?
Yes, so that number would be deducted out of Yellowstone's contract.
Okay, so that would change that difference. Okay, so that helps me a little bit there, because I wanted to make sure that the residents understand when they're walking through their front yard, their backyard, as well as the parks within their area, they would all be changing that whole thing. So with that, my comment to it is I like this tiered approach. I like the 30-day opt-out that we have everywhere. I like that. I would prefer to see a warning shot to Yellowstone and say, here's the deal. Because of the economy, because of everything happening, because we're mindful of our ownership, we're giving you that one-time shot. Here's your last shot because they're the next price up. But then everything, if they don't come through within that 30, 60, 90-day window and they're not improving, then I would be all in favor to jumping to that next level. I know that's difficult and challenging with the budget, but it's something that I don't necessarily always think that more money is the solution. And that's where I'm struggling, especially when it comes to somebody that works elsewhere in the community that I haven't seen, you know, I haven't knocked my socks off either with their performance elsewhere. So those are my 2 cents on it. I'm happy to hear what Diana says as well.
Thanks, Kevin. Diana, any thoughts?
I like the approach. This is going in honestly in a different way than I thought it was going to go tonight, and I'm pleased that we're at least considering a tiered approach to this. But unless we have, I would suggest that we have a monthly update at our board meeting as to how this is going. If we do decide to go with exquisite, that we are on top of it at every meeting. We owe that to the residents. And we owe that to make sure that we get to the rest of the community that Spring Lake is maintained to the same level. So I would be willing to go this way if we can stay on top of it and make sure that we're updated and that we have that 30-day out if we go with a 1-year contract.
Thank you, Diana. I'm gonna piggyback in really quick on here, and then I'll open it up to anybody that has a motion. So here's my concern. I hear what you're saying with regards to Yellowstone. I think they've had their chance. The reality is we had an option, our only option, which is why, you know, everybody, I should rephrase that, everybody's not a fair statement. The service area for Spring Lake Garden Homes has said, why haven't we held Yellowstone to their contract? The way we hold them to a contract is by firing them. That's it. But if we fire them, then it's who are we going to take over? Who's going to take over? So I feel like they've known that they've been on notice for this. So let's just, okay, Exquisite has already said they want a chance to prove themselves within Celebration CROA Homeowner Association and the service areas. I'll be the first one to say this is not the first time we've ever heard this, ever. We hear this for just about every contract that we ever have multiple bids for is, oh, let's go ahead and give it a try. Let's see what we can get. And they low bid, and then we end up where we're at. Exquisite does have experience with homeowners, or with our homeowners. Not with service areas and not with any CROA property, but they have experience with homeowners. And I am not, as much as I think that Yellowstone has done okay with the rest of our properties, I don't think they've risen to the occasion when we've asked them to, with regards to Spring Lake. So that's my personal opinion on this, and I'll open it up. If anybody has a motion, I would honor that. If anybody has any more thoughts, I would encourage those too. Board members only, please.
Brian.
Let me lay out the construct of a motion and see what you think. So Exquisite for 1 year, based upon what you just said about Yellowstone. Monthly reporting, a joint report by management and the committee for Spring Park Gardens. So it's joint. We gotta give
Spring Lake Gardens. Spring Lake.
I apologize. We gotta give Exquisite a couple of cure periods because there are going to be bumps and hurdles. But then we have an out, let's say after 6 months, if it's clear it's not working, and then we go to New Leaf and who we know can do the job. But then, at least then, we honor what the Spring Lake Committee wanted for the garden homes. We give Exquisite a real try. And, you know, if we're getting the email saying this is not Celebration standard, it's unacceptable. Oh, and the other part of this is management's got to give more time to Spring Lake. Like I've already commented on earlier, but then we're going to make sure that we're actually walking it much more often, trying to really get on top of this.
Thank you, Brian. So does so is that your specific motion then, Brian?
Well, it would be if other people agree. I wanted to lay out a concept.
With the concept.
Okay, so well, it's not a concept. Is that what we want to do? So I need either a new motion or a second.
Hey,
Trying to
Vanessa?
round Robin Roberts.
Wait, just a second. I'm going
This
to.
is Mary Ann. I will second Brian's motion.
Okay, so I'm going to, before we do that, Neil, you were going to say something. Did you want to chime in here?
I do, because I think it might change the motion unless we can just all agree, but this is great. I think Diana said this thing, that this isn't going the way I thought, but this is good. I would not be doing my service to this community, to the board, if I didn't add in here, Brian, that there needs to be some agreement ahead of time, maybe a meeting between the service area and management, so that we're all talking about SMART goals, and we all agree that when we do inspections, if I think it's a 7, they should also see a 7. If they see an 8, I shouldn't be seeing a 5. So I do think I like this. I think it's equitable. I think it's fair. I think it's reasonable. It's ownership, not just for the owners, but for management and the landscaper. But I do feel if we're going to do this, those reports need to be from the service area and management coming together as a team, and all of us seeing the same thing. Because I think if management feels that the landscaper is doing an acceptable job, but the service area committee feels it's poor, we have nothing to reconcile that. So I think it's important we get on the same page before we start grading.
Give me one second, Brian. Here's my thought. And Neil, is this something we can do? Get you as executive director, Susanna, and then we have Jessica, who is the new community standards, and Tim. I would like all 4 in conjunction with Exquisite, because that sounds like where we're going with here. And then the 3 service area committees, or the 3 service area committee members. I think that if we're going to make this a success, it truly needs to be a group effort and a group agreement with regards to what is our community standard. So Brian, go ahead.
Well, and I wanted to follow up. I'm pretty certain the board would be perfectly comfortable going with New Leaf. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to honor what the committee in the service area wanted to do. We're asking management to get heavily involved. We're asking for the reporting monthly where the committee contributes to it so that we know they agree, because we're trying to find a celebration standard that works, that they're happy with, at a price they're happier with. And they were part of the process. They recommended them. So we're trying to honor what they did. We're just saying this is going to be the out if this doesn't work, but we're more than happy to give it a year.
Agreed. Board, is management, are we on board with this particular direction?
I love it, Vanessa. I think the more team members you have, the combined with our service area volunteers who are smart people and they're advocating on behalf of their homeowners, and bringing in the business partner and all of us in the same room, even to the point of using photos of what is acceptable and what's not, I think the board will get a clearer idea of success versus failure. I really do. And I'm not saying this to be flippant. This has got to be a collaborative, holistic approach. Like, it has to be. Every year in this industry, every community has, somebody becomes their new hobby. And I'm quite happy for us to make Spring Lake Garden Homes our new hobby in 2021. I say that in jest. I'm not being flippant, but absolutely. I like this a lot better than our previous meetings.
Agreed. Thank you. So here's a couple of quick little bows we need on here. First, committee members and non-committee members for Spring Lake Garden Homes. I'm going to personally ask you on behalf of the board, I'm going to be a little presumptuous here. And I'm also, with regards to management, please, as we move forward with this, we want full engagement on the garden homes. My reason for saying that is every attempt we have had, there's been a vocal minority. And I know that's doesn't sound fair to say, but there's 151 homes over in the garden homes. And we need to understand that it's not just the vocal minority, that it is the vocal majority that is or isn't happy with the direction as we move forward. I'm not asking for immediate emails now, although you're more than welcome to, because I highly encourage that no matter what. But I think it's important that we hear from you as we move forward with this particular motion, that this is something that you are comfortable with, that we are all as a team committed to being successful. I know you haven't heard that we're a team in the past. You may not have felt that, but it is something that we really want this to we want to make this work. We understand that you're in a situation where in order to opt out, you need 75%. And you don't have that coming to the table. You don't even have 50%, which is why we had to lower the threshold to get a committee established. We need community engagement. No matter if it's this committee or any committee, we have to have your engagement in this process to make it work. I know you don't think we want your emails. We really do. And we may even in jest say, got another email. The reality is if we don't hear from you, we don't know where you stand. Please send it to us. So going forward, do I have an official motion based upon our dialogue?
I think what Brian said is the motion.
Yeah.
I need a recap because we had a little adjustments with regards to who was going to be on the playing field and everything.
The recap was motion for Exquisite for a 1-year contract with management and the service area committee working together.
Monthly reporting.
Monthly reporting and acknowledging and the walkthrough also includes Exquisite, setting some clear metrics or clear standards. And I think Neil said maybe photographs from that area or other areas. So this is what we're looking at and move this towards a win.
And we said if this doesn't work, then we need to go to New Leaf to get it fixed up to standards.
Yeah, and so the clause is if this doesn't work and we cancel this, we'll turn to New Leaf.
Very good. So
Brian, are you or are you not putting that in the motion?
I am putting that in the motion. The New Leaf was our fallback, but we're going to give this every chance to make it work. It's their recommendation.
Okay.
Okay, so Brian's motion, David, were you the second? I don't remember
No,
who
no,
was
I was
where.
not. Mary Ann was the second.
I was
Mary
the
Ann-
second.
Are you good with that second?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. Then any further discussion specific to the board members?
Call the
I just
question.
have one clarifying question really quick, just at the
Go
price
ahead.
difference.
Go
Going
ahead,
from
Kevin.
140, going from 141 with Exquisite to 211 in New Leaf. If we turned around and things didn't work, you know, all happy and everything, and February comes around, how do we make up for that difference in the budget? Is there a special assessment to the community to go ahead and correct that landscape? How does that work?
I'm thinking if it's a 1-year contract and we give them a fair chance, it's going to take us at least all the way into the middle of next year or later. So it'd be a few months. Yeah, we'd have to have an increase in the assessments.
And that just gets reflected in the quarterly assessments that CCMC does.
Yeah, I would think so. Or even it would be just, it would even, I think they have enough in the reserves to carry, they don't carry reserves, do they? Because it's just landscaping. Is that correct?
Yeah. But again,
Okay.
the Spring Lake Gardens Committee would be part of this decision because they're going to be the ones telling us if they're comfortable it's getting the celebration standard or not. And if it's not, and they're telling us it's not, then they'll be part of that decision with the budget decision now.
Fair enough.
Okay, I'm much more comfortable with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Any other comments or insight from board members, please? Management, before I call the vote, is there any clarifications that you require in order to make sure that this motion is something that everybody is on the same page with?
I don't want to stifle my team, but I feel so much better today than what I did a week ago with this. So Susanna and Tim and Mike and JB, do you all have anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, this is Tim. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yep, you're good.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I am very happy with the outcome of this too. I saw it going a different way, and all day, every time I'd get an email with homeowners, you know, expressing their concerns and all that, I think I had another gray hair pop out. So I am very happy if with this 1-year contract and to see how it goes. I am just as happy with this to see how it goes and to work well with the committee. That was my goal from the beginning, is to work with the committee. So I'm happy with this. I think it's a good moving forward start position. I think it's meeting 50-50, and I think it's great. Good idea.
Thank you, Tim. Diana, I saw your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, can I clarify just one thing? At one point, we said there's the 6-month out contract. Is that part of this motion, the 6-month out?
It's a 3-month out, or excuse me, 30-day out. We have a 30-day no matter what our contract is, we can get out in 30 days no matter what.
Okay, I wanted to clarify that.
We would have to give them at least 6 months or so. In other words, if they started tomorrow, they're going to need 3-4 months just to start making things happy, walk it with the committee, walk it with management, and we're going to give them a cure period or 2. So to me, to be fair to them, you got to give them at least 6 months probably.
Agreed.
Oh, absolutely.
But I don't think that needs to be in the motion.
I don't think it has to be.
Agreed.
I agree.
Okay, because that's part of the contract. And then my last comment would be before we vote is that a resident brought up that if we just follow the standard landscaping guidelines that we already have without coming up with a new set of guidelines, if we just stick with what's already there and follow those guidelines, then that will bring them up to the celebration standard. So I don't know that we need to create a whole new way of doing this. Just stick with the standards.
Totally agree. And I totally agree. We have standards because we are meeting them in all of our other service areas. Go ahead, Brian.
Exactly.
I've heard stories from residents about there's been too much watering, sprinkler park issues, and all kinds of junk, which is kind of nutty. Have at my house too, but I mean that's where I'm saying we need management walking more and more often, so we figure out, okay, this is where it is. Because I think if we ever get it right once, we'll kind of start making sense and go that. But we've got to get all these little things fixed.
Agreed. Any other comments from management or board members before we call the vote?
Susanna, Mike, or JB?
Well, if I just can say one thing, I think that to Brian's point and Neil's about setting some metrics. It's only because having been out there so long, you know, you will find one area where azaleas are doing great, and then you go to a block over and they're all dying. And so there are some nuances out there, like Brian said about irrigation. There might be, okay, well, these plants aren't good. And what's going to be great about having a big group is all the experience and that everybody has from a different perspective to bring to that, and choosing the right plants, choosing the right watering schedule. You know, identify, some homeowners want their podocarpus really high, some people want them low, you know, and that's where community standards comes in to say, here's the standard. So we, even though you may like it higher or lower, here's the level, that's where it's going to be okay. And so I think the more people you can bring in with the more experience, and a landscaper, the homeowners, management, just a better process we're going to have to reach a good outcome. So it's very, it's exciting actually.
Thank you, Susanna. I think I think we're all feeling a little more promise to this one.
Yeah.
So any other comments before I call the vote? Okay, before I call the vote again, any committee members, I'm not opening this to comment. However, I would highly encourage that if you have or have not emailed the CROA board or Tim as your service area manager, please feel free to do that. Send on your messages and send on any of your feedback you have to us. If you send it directly to Tim, he will and has forwarded that on to us. And if I have received any emails, I again have forwarded on to the entire board. So the entire board is fully aware of all of your feedback. So on that note, I will call the vote. Diana, yes or no?
Yes.
Kevin, yes or no?
Very happy to say yes.
Mary Ann?
Yes.
Thank you. Brian?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, perfect. Then motion passes.
My guess is we shocked everybody.
I think it was, our goal was not to do shock and awe, but our goal was to definitely problem solve. So again, please, Spring Lake Garden Homes, please reach out to us if you have any feedback or any ways to improve this process. We are all ears. We truly are. We want this to be successful. You are truly part of Celebration, and I know you don't always feel that way. We want you to succeed.
And can I make a closing comment, Vanessa?
Please.
David, Tim has no idea what gray hair means.
No, you have blonde. You have blonde. You have, for the last couple of years we worked together, you have insisted it is blonde hair. So I will hold you to that, Brian. Don't disappoint me. Yes, it's platinum. It is not blonde. It is not gray.
If it's salt and pepper.
Okay, on that note, any other comments? Are we all set to move on? I'm even lost track of where we're at. Okay, we're on motion number 5. Thank you so much. Motion to approve the proposed CJC insurance renewal for 2020 to 2021 policy year through, is it SILE Insurance? You think they've been our insurance company forever, through a CJC operating expenditure. Again, CJC has already approved it, I believe. They are just waiting for us to ratify it. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, David. Do I have a conversation or discussion from any board members?
Yeah, let me make a couple of quick comments. Neil and I had a conversation with him the other day. We haven't got the final numbers. What we learned today, even in a late email, is we had 10 million of umbrella coverage last year. The maximum that Philadelphia is offering this year is 5 million in umbrella coverage. The reality of the world is the Morgan & Morgans of the world and all their lawsuits are making all insurance companies thinking about raising rates and reducing coverage. I'm not sure we'll get more than 5 million in umbrella coverage. We also got a couple of, the approximate cost is 193,000. We got a couple of pricing changes coming through. They had defense limits inside the limits versus outside, like for liability, which I think will adjust at maybe $500-600. So we got a few of those things going on. And they clearly told us that next year rates are going to go up even more, which is not a surprise to me. It's what I'm hearing all my friends in the industry too. So I think it's a good bid. I think Neil thinks it's a good bid, and it's consistent with what Mary Ann reviewed last year. But there's just a couple of things there that I want people to be aware of.
Thank you, Brian. And for the board members, obviously, it's more critical because any decision we make ultimately falls back on our insurance, and we do not wish to, or any future board wish to cover it on our own personally. Any other comments from the board? Then I will call the vote. Brian, yes or no?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Diana?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Mary Ann?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion passes. To have a motion to approve the transfer of 30,000 operating cash to reserves for Oak Pond Service Area Replacement Reserves. Again, this is for something that work that has been done through their reserve process. They just need the cash to be able to pay their bills. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, David. Do I have a second?
Mary Ann, second.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Discussion from the board.
The write-up was very clear. Thank you.
Then I will call the vote. Brian, yes or no?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Mary Ann?
Yes.
Diana?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion to discuss the application for new architectural committee member. Do I have a motion to discuss or a motion at all?
Motion to discuss.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second to discuss?
I'll second.
Thank you, David. I sent an email out because I think there's a couple of quick clarification that is important with regards to any committee member or any committee that is specifically cited in the charter has its own little box within our charter. So for instance, for committee, for the Architectural Review Committee, Chapter 5, 5.3b, there is a specific subset of that that says ARC members need not be owners or representative of owners, owners or representative of owners. That is a unique entity for this committee. The reason for that is because there is the desire to have somebody in that position that has a unique qualification of either, and I'll continue, the ARC may, but not need, include architects, engineers, or similar professionals. You can also compensate these ARC members. I think that highlights the fact that this is something that CROA board relies upon heavily in their expertise, because we have 7 board members in an ideal situation. We have 7 board members that rely upon the expertise of our committees that are specifically cited in our charter. That includes ARC, covenants, and our newest one, which is finance, which is heavily towards finance expertise, budgeting, things like that. So I think that one of the emails that exchanged through the board was, do we need to have a little call out for a separate application for those committees that are highlighted within the charter versus those that are, which was referenced earlier, a specific administrative committee establishment resolution. And that again covers like your recreation committee, your dog park committee, and all of those other things that do not have an impact on this CROA board's fiduciary responsibilities. So I want to have a little difference of conversation on that as to our regular committees, recreation, et cetera, and those that actually impact our fiduciary responsibility, which would include ARC, covenants, and finance committee. So on that note, I'll open this to either a motion or a CROA board discussion. Do I have a motion?
I'm not sure how the motion would be worded per se. I'm trying to think about that for a minute. But like on the finance committee, everybody is a financial type with an accounting or financial risk management type background, and it's really what you need to be effective. So from the perspective of a finance committee, attendee, to be relevant and valid, you really have to understand things financial. And I think we should only put people on the finance committee, as an example, who understand balance sheet, income statements, and risk management and investments and that type of stuff that are relevant to our charter and what we need to do for the town.
So I'll open this a little broader. This particular motion is to approve an application. The application was submitted through somebody that has submitted in the past and is a very good volunteer. So I do not want to have any slight at all about this particular applicant. The qualifications as a volunteer, this individual has volunteered for our community a lot. So I don't want to have any slight on this. We are specifically speaking as to the qualifications of what we want for this ARC committee position. We have a total of 5. Right now there's 3. We have 2 open positions. Do we want to hold those 2 positions? Please keep in mind, we have not had any issues. I'm actually the liaison. We haven't had any issues at all with meeting a quorum or making a decision. I can't think of any actually in the last year that I have been on the committee that have actually been anything other than unanimous. All decisions based upon the committee members have been unanimous. So I want to make sure that we understand that right now we want more members on the ARC committee, but we have not. It has not impeded our ability to get things done as a committee.
So your point is that for 3 of these committees, we need special qualifications.
Correct.
And then the question here is, will there be a motion to approve the person that we, as you said, is a great volunteer? Is there a motion to approve this particular appointment to this committee?
Correct. Is there an approval or a denial? I need a motion of one of the 2.
Or no motion. It can die
Or
for
no,
lack of a
or
motion.
no motion. Or no motion. We can totally, yeah, it can die due to lack of a motion, which is fine too.
My preference is to not to vote to deny.
Okay, 1 minute. Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, and I don't know the answer to this, but I just, to help moving forward, and I think more, not for now, but more for the future, can management help me understand, have we ever had a committee member on ARC without a background in whether it be construction, design, anything that would fall within this scope of a specialty? Has that ever happened in the past?
I'm actually going to speak on behalf of some of them because I don't know that we even have people that are on the board that would know that. Diana, I think you could probably speak to when you and I are on the board together.
I was speaking for Susanna, sorry.
Well, Susan, I don't know that Suzanne has that. Susanna, do you have that information?
I do actually.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah. 6 years ago, Dan Tomzik was on the ARC, and he was previously the Covenants chair for like 10 years. So he was on the ARC committee for about 2 years.
After Covenants experience.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I know we don't let the public speak, but Jack McLaughlin is nodding his head that we had somebody on too. Or he's saying Susanna nailed the person is what he's saying. Okay.
Okay. Suzanne spoke to the only person other than somebody that has the expertise in ARC, but they have had 10 years previous Covenants. Is that what you're saying, Susanna?
Yes, we had also had Scott Rohrbach for a while that he didn't have any specific architectural experience, but he was a realtor and he did have landscape experience. So he gave a lot of landscape architectural advisement at the time.
Perfect. Diana, in your past, when you were on the board, did you have any experience with anybody that did not have anything specific to landscaping or Covenants or anything of that nature in the past?
None that I can recall. And I don't know if those people that they named were on the board. I don't recall them being on that committee when I was on the board before.
Thank you. Does that help, Kevin, with your question?
It actually makes it harder for me, to be honest. I was hopeful it was going to help me, but it actually did the opposite.
That's all right. Fair enough. Any other comments or questions from the board? then I need either a motion or it dies. Going, gone.
I mean, hold
Go-
on. It's not gone yet.
Okay.
It
Well,
won't. I mean, if it fails,
Okay.
it fails.
Okay.
But I think we are definitely a community that's big in volunteerism. We have 2 seats. We have a history that we haven't necessarily followed this in the past, for whatever extenuating circumstances there may have been. They've been active. They've been involved. And I even see that they may have actually a couple moons ago, but acted as a general contractor over reconstruction of a structure that was returned back to an old world appearance. So I feel as though, and that's based on the resume, the last item that's on there, but I just
So what's your
if I heard,
your motion?
I would
Go
make a
ahead.
motion to approve it.
Okay.
To approve the member. that
Okay. Okay. Do I have a second for the motion? Going. Motion dies. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate your stepping up. Then we will move on
Item 8.
to. Go ahead.
Item
Yeah.
8.
I was headed there. Sorry. Do we have a motion to approve the request for proposal resolution letter and fact sheet as drafted by the RFP task force for mailing to the 36 task force recommended managing companies? Do I have a motion for this?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
I'll second. This is Diana.
Good.
Thank you, Diana. Before we move on, I have a quick clarification because I think several of us as liaisons to different committees have received feedback that the committee, how can I phrase this? The either the staff members or the committee chairs are not sure of how to facilitate the process, and I don't have the item number or the number specifically on that draft. How do we facilitate that? And I would like to open it up to say it either needs to be the committee chair that runs that when the staff member steps off, or one of the committee liaison needs to actually step up and take it over. And what I mean with that is when they're getting feedback from residents, how do we, because some of our committee chairs are not very fluent in Zoom. They don't know how to run a meeting. So when it's passed over, how do you do that? So Brian, I'm going to open that to for you for comment. Go ahead.
Well, let's go to that comment last. We won't blow it off, but let's go through what we did the motion on first. So with the motion, the request for proposal resolution is 2 pages. This is pretty consistent with what we did for the Charter Review Committee a year ago, and it formalizes everything for the record with the board vote so that, 3 years from now, 6 years from now, 9 years from now, this is how they organized the project and how they did it. And then what we have here with the piece before that is the committee, and David and Diana can follow up with me when I'm done here, but the committee has been working extremely well. Myself personally, I've never done a request for proposal before in my life, but we have a great committee of 5 people who actually all do this professionally. So it's like we talked about some of our committees earlier, or this task force has been exceptional at that. So what we have done is we have prepared a letter, which is a request for qualifications and a fact sheet that would be sent out. And with that, what we're striving to do is identify companies, managing companies that would be even capable of managing Celebration Florida. We used the CAI database and other inputs from professionals and evaluated more than 270 managing agents, got it down to 36 who we thought were qualified to send the request for qualification to. Management, meaning CCMC, has not been part of this process at all. We've tried to run this as professional and independent as possible. To what we're looking, and this letter and the fact sheet and the companies was sent to the board by Gary Hudspeth, who's the chair of the task force, 8-9 days ago. It has been signed off by the whole task force and the board liaisons, which is David, Diana, and myself. So what we're looking for the board to do today is take the resolution and approve it, and then approve the request for qualifications letter and fact sheet. And we're going to send it to the 36 companies. And then Gary's going to work with Vanessa to get them all signed and into the mail quickly. And then we're looking for feedback from those companies by December 31st, which is a little quicker, but we're getting the letter out. We are cognizant that people would like this process to move as fast as is practical. So if we get the responses back by the 31st, then we would start, we being the task force, would start looking at those responses. We don't think we'll get 36 responses. We think you'll have 10 companies that say, this is going to be a whole lot of work, I'm willing to really do it. We'd look at those 10, that would then, all 10 of them would come to the board ultimately with the recommendation for these are the 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever the number is going to be, that should be pursued for the full RFP. Then what you were talking about with the public and running meetings is we have asked all of the various committees, be it the finance committee, dog park committee, whoever it might be. Gary sent out a letter from the task force, and that asked them at their meetings, if the public is there and wants to comment, just talk about what are the services that those committees really consider important that they're getting today, what would they like to add or what would they like to change. And there we've asked that management, that part of the conversation not be recorded, and that management be asked to leave. If we need to help somebody who's not a Zoom expert, we'll find somebody, or we'll find somebody on the board to help.
So Brian, I'm actually going to interrupt you there only because I want to problem solve on this one. My request is, could we please either have a fellow board member, or I would prefer an RFP member be able to attend one of those committee members, committee meetings, whether it be recreation or ARC or any of those. If for some reason a committee member is not able to do it, then go ahead and, a liaison. Those meetings that I'm a liaison, I'm more than willing to do that. But I think it's important that you actually get the feedback directly to the RFP committee members, more so than you do the fellow board members. That's my 2 cents on that.
And I'm fine with that one. I was meeting the summary report, sorry. But yeah, the information is due to the RFP committee by December 18th. And if any committee has a meeting between now and December 18th and needs somebody to help manage Zoom, then let Gary or David, Diana, or me know, and we will figure out how to have someone present to help manage that process.
So Susanna, I'm actually going to loop it back to the management. Susanna, as you receive feedback from any of your staff members or any of your committee members that need assistance, please let us know that we need to have a representative on there, whether it be a liaison or an RFP person, to make sure that that is covered. Is that reasonable?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. I don't want to minimize the motion, because I do think that this needs to go forward. So was there any other comments or discussion with regards to the motion on the table for those 2 approvals?
David, Diana?
Just a clarification. I mean, Brian said it, but just to make it very, very clear to anyone listening or watching later, RFQ and RFP are both embedded in this resolution. The motion is approval of the resolution, the letter, and the fact sheet. So the letter has to do with RFQ moving towards an RFP. So this is a 2-step process, if you will. So RFQ, the request for qualifications, is a narrowing down process that takes it to an RFP.
Yes.
Diana, would you like to add anything?
I think she stepped away for a second because she had to do something for work. So we'll go ahead. I think it's fair to say that what we have here it is representative, but I will open it up. Is there any board comments with regards to moving forward with this? Any comments or concerns? Kevin, I saw you unmuted yourself. Go ahead. You're all set.
One comment. David, it appears as though you'll be submitting your candidacy for the next run, if I'm not incorrect here, to be part of this process for the rest of the year, or next year rather.
Nobody has talked about that yet.
You signed this name, you're doing it. That's it.
I'm not sure where you're coming from that. That's strictly for this particular board. I won't put him to that one. But I would love it if he would run again. And that's on that side note.
He is tied into it with this form here.
The term is up when the term is up. But what
was your
what's the point?
beyond pulling poor David into something he may or may not want to do?
Nope. It's just the acknowledgement. Once we pass this, I just want to make sure he sees it through. That's it.
So is there any other comment? Sorry, David. Is there any other comment? I'm going to bulldoze past you on this one. David, is there any other comments from board members on this? David, fortunately, I did not actually mute you, so you muted yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
So on that note, is there any other comment with regards to passing the motion for those specific items? And I'd be happy to make myself available to sign whatever I need to for the 36, I believe, letters that would be going out.
Call the vote.
Okay. Brian, yes or no?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Marianne?
Yes.
And I'm not sure if Diana's back yet or not.
I am. I just literally got back, so I'm a yes.
Okay.
Sorry
Are you
about
a yes?
that.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm
Since
yes.
you were involved in the whole process, I assumed you were good with it, but I didn't want to put any words in your mouth. Thank you so much.
No, yeah, no problem.
Okay. Perfect. So on that note, we have a motion passed for the RFP process, and a call out to those that are on this particular Zoom meeting. Thank you very much, the RFP task force, for all the hard work. You guys have been meeting relentlessly I believe every Thursday. It's actually for those of us that have PTSD from the charter from the charter review. Thank you very much for all of your hard work on that. I appreciate it very much. So there are several items that are on this form, the recommendations to approve based upon the Recreation Committee. Do I have a lump approval for those? Thank you, David.
I'd like to put items 9 through 17, because they're all recommended by the Recreation Committee as a consent agenda, and vote on all of them at once.
Thank you, David. Do I have a second to that motion?
This is Marianne. I'll second that.
Thank you, Marianne. I'll make a quick comment because I was actually on the Recreation Committee for this particular situation. And the action item number 15 is a 2-year term, which is an edit we need to make.
Yes.
Number 15, it's a 2-year term, not a 1-year term, as recommended by the Recreation Committee. So that's the one thing that we need to edit for that on our paper. The Recreation Committee is approving this with the understanding that the CROA board still ultimately will say yes or no moving forward with different openings, whether it be outside, indoor, whatever, based upon our board protocols for COVID-19. So I want to clarify that that was something that was specifically discussed during the Recreation Committee as to why they approved it, understanding that the CROA board ultimately will say, you know what, we're not opening up our indoor facilities yet, or we're not comfortable with more than 5 people in a group, or however that may be. So I want to make that quick caveat as to what was discussed during the meeting. So based on that, I'll open this for conversation for approval or otherwise opinions. Go ahead, David.
So I have a couple comments. One is I appreciate all the work of the Recreation Committee in reviewing these. Second, I'm particularly pleased to see the continuation with the partnership with the Celebration Foundation for thriving and lifelong. Third, I see in all the contracts, and I didn't see it in one, but I appreciate seeing the notation about following COVID standards and so forth. The one I did not see is community chorus, and maybe I just missed it, but I would like to see that and I'm glad to see them in all, but I'd like to see that to make sure that it is in community chorus. I just couldn't find it. I think it was bolded in all of them.
Wait, repeat that again, because community chorus is in there. What was your concern? I'm sorry.
All of the others have an
Okay.
extra clause that's been added in their statement of work about following COVID-19 guidelines.
Got it.
And that's,
Okay,
that's marvelous, but I didn't see it in the chorus. And look, their concerts are not located there in 851, but when they have practice, whenever that resumes, they should be held to that standard.
Gotcha. And I think the one conversation that was made during that particular conversation of the community chorus was the concern that CROA approved approved it in the budget, because we actually subsidized portion of that. So
Right.
that was the only conversation specific that I recall with regards to the community chorus. I'll reach out to Nikki for any feedback on that. You're probably muted, Nikki. Can you get in? There you go.
Yes, ma'am.
There you go. You're all set.
Yes, that was the only concern that the committee had. But as far as I understood, it actually was not included in the 2021 budget for community chorus, since they didn't utilize any funds this year. But after speaking with the chorus representative, they were okay with that, and it's going to be brought back to the Recreation Committee in July, so they can make a recommendation for the 2022 budget.
Thank
I
you.
actually have
So
one question,
We had it in the
just
budget.
as a
Wait, go
tag
ahead.
to that one,
Go ahead,
because
Kevin. Go
Brian,
ahead, Kevin, and then David. Go ahead.
Brian, you may be able to help me on this. Same thing. One of the first years when we reviewed the budget, we did see that it was a separate line item just for community chorus, even though it was actually, part of a recreation thing, and we ended up pushing it and molding it within that same area. I'm a little concerned if it's stepping out of that again.
As I understood, and I'm going from memory here, about a year ago, they actually redid the whole thing with community chorus to become their own 501c, if I remember right, or 301, whatever it is. And they're pretty much standalone. We just helped them a little. I thought that was the only thing we did now.
The only thing, and I'll open this to Nikki too, the only thing that we do is they do, I believe it's 3 concerts for CROA every year, which is what they are basically given money from CROA. Nikki, did you want to expand on that, please?
That is correct. So yes, they do 3 concerts, and the funds help with in regards to paying for the Presbyterian Church, as well as paying for the lights, etc., the audio, the technician, and a stipend for the conductor.
They pay for music too.
Yes.
Yes, I see it's,
yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
it's about $3,500. Am I looking and understanding that right?
Nikki,
Yes, that's correct.
sounds about right.
Correct.
And I think we did approve it in the budget for this coming year.
And I guess the one thing that I'm curious about is the 2019 budget and the 2020 budget. Did it have that same item as a separate line item, or was that within an overall recreation item?
I
thought it was individual. I thought it was
We had
individual,
separate.
but Brian, I think it was separate.
It
Brian,
was
do you
separate.
recall?
I don't recall. I'd have to research.
Okay.
I remember
Okay.
that, and it was 3,000. I think this year was the first year of 3,500.
I think
Yeah,
you're
just-
right, David. Go ahead, Brian.
It used
Or
to
go
be that
ahead,
way,
Kevin.
and then there was a change. I just recall the first budget year being on the board that was changed because it was the only item that was kind of outside and different and unique in that situation.
I'll be
And I
happy.
think
I'll be happy to do some research and send an email to the board.
The other thing is that we changed is put it under recreation, because 2 years ago, I don't think that was the case.
It was not. It was an individual thing through CROA specifically, through special events, I believe. And this is the first year it's actually been moved over specifically to the recreation. Nikki, is that an accurate assessment?
Yes, it's now
Okay.
under, from my understanding, yes, it's now under recreation.
And this is such a small expenditure. I mean, and for a tremendous gain, and for so many residents that get to take part of it when they can, you know, come back together. So I
It's
think
it's free
respect that.
concerts. Go ahead.
I just think we had a conversation and a change happens for a reason, and now we're kind of slowly going back to an old way. I know Vanessa, I think you were off the board at the time this change happened. David was president when it changed.
I actually had just gone on. This was something that Cindy Swisher had attended the meetings on. So it was in 2000. It was just when I first started on March of last year, or whatever. It's all running together. So it was a conversation I was part of. Yes, it does.
Yeah, it was a 2018 discussion for the 2019 budget, and I believe that followed through for the 2020 budget. And now it's changed back to its old ways for 2021.
I don't think it's changed to any old ways. I don't think that's different.
Let me do a write-up. I'll do
The only question I was raising was about honoring COVID standards. That's the only question I had there.
So I think it's fair to say right now we have a motion on the table to approve as is. The motion, are we willing to adjust our motion to specify that the COVID protocols need to be added to that?
Yeah, that's I made the motion, so I would amend that motion.
Right. To specify that chorus specifically needs to be accounted for the COVID protocols.
Yeah.
Do I have, I don't remember who seconded it. Was that Mary Ann or Brian? It's all blending together again. Do I have who was the second on that? Do we recall?
Did we make the motion to combine them all?
I did.
We did.
And we passed it?
Yes.
We did.
Wait, no, we haven't passed it.
Passed the
We had a
motion. We had
second.
a motion and a second.
I
Thank
second
you.
the motion to combine them all, this is Mary Ann.
Thank you, Mary Ann. So are you good with editing then to with the COVID protocols?
I accept the edits, yes.
Okay, perfect. Then just to move forward and understanding, Brian, you're still going to loop back and give a recap for everybody so we're on the same page. But I have a motion and a second, so I'm going to call the vote unless there's any further discussion. Are we good with this?
Yes.
I'm unfortunately going to be a no because I don't want to keep 13 within this until I have further information and clarification on that.
Okay, then I'll ask your vote first then, since you've already spoke. So you're a no, is that correct?
Yes, I'm a no on looping it together.
Okay, do I have a, Diana, are you a yes or a no?
I'm a yes.
Mary Ann?
Sorry, yes.
Thank you. David?
Yes.
And Brian?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Just loop back on that if you could, Brian, that would be great.
I'll take care of it.
Okay, thank you. So we're on to motion number 18. Motion to approve the aggregate expenditure of up to $10,000 of operating expenses to implement Microsoft Teams software, which would be a CJC operating expenditure through the Technology Committee budget. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Diana. Discussion.
Yeah, let me just go first.
Go ahead, Brian.
We discussed Teams and we said we wanted to implement it, and then Jim Hayes got all the way down to he needed to pay the invoice, and Patrick said, where's the approval? And I dug and I was like, oh crap, we never really had a motion. So we have a bill for $5,040. Made this motion for up to $10,000 because I'm sure there will be other incremental expenses. So that is the core of this. But also, David had asked a question. So just to clarify for everybody, you know, this would create Office 365 tenant for all the board and volunteer committees. It would be a safe and secure, we each would have our own email business address for town business. It would be a safe and secure environment. these would be stored on a server somehow in the cloud, whatever, so that we've had issues before where we didn't know where the emails were they secured or stored. They will be stored now. David had asked the question, will they be accessible then? The answer is yes, they will be discoverable and accessible. You know, if you do something from your private email, it won't be, but if you use your town hall email address, it will be accessible. You know, you can use them for video and voice calls. Jim is on, Tom Hull is on. They got to do the final implementation. Like I was on the CCD meeting yesterday and tried to do a combination. They would try and do a combination of in-person and Zoom, and it was not good at best. You just couldn't hear. I literally just jumped in my car and sped over to the CCD building. So my challenge to Jim and Tom is they've got to find a way that we can have a combo meeting in the future when we make that transition. But I think, you know, we've talked about it before. I think this is the right thing to do to get us moving forward more professionally as a town and with proper storage and everything like that. So that's what this is about.
Thank you, Brian. Any conversation or questions regarding this from any board members before we call the vote?
The Technology Committee brought this forward, what, 3 months ago? We had a little briefing. This was great. This was great.
Thank you, David. Diana, did you have any comments? I see you're glowing on me.
Oh, no, I use Teams every day in work life, and it's fabulous, and it will do a lot of good things for us. So
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Then I'll call the vote. Brian, yes or no?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Marianne?
Yes.
Diana?
yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you. Motion passes. Number 19 and 20 are both for Artisan Park ratifications. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
To combine
Is it
them. Motion
Are
to
you
combine.
motioning to combine them?
Yes.
Thank you, David. Okay. So Brian, your motion is to combine 19 and 20. And David, was
Yes,
that your
I'll
second?
I'll second that. Thank you.
Conversation or discussion from the board?
They've done the research.
All good to call the vote? Diana, yes or no?
Yes.
Marianne?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you. Motion 19 and 20 both pass. Number 21, motion to approve the amount of $135,920 for the 314 to 320 Charleston Place roof replacement, including the base contract, and this is kind of this is a little sticky one, base contract for Crown Roofing in the amount of $85,250. The balance, just for if you read the documents, it's actually the balance is engineering. North Village Townhome Service Area Replacement Reserve expenditure. And again, this is all per our litigation and executive session information that we already had. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Marianne, I'll second.
Thank you, Marianne. Conversation discussion, please keep it limited because it is executive privilege.
Actually, kind of surprised that we're calling this vote publicly.
We have to because it is a and it's an expense and it's for the service area reserve. We did check with our attorney as to how this needs to be handled, and it does need to be declared publicly.
Okay, and for clarification, this is coming out of the service areas for that specific service area, North Village Townhomes, their reserves.
Their reserve expenditure, correct. That is a good clarification, yes. Any other conversation or questions regarding this? I'll call the vote. Brian?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Diana?
Yes.
Marianne?
Yes.
Kevin?
Due to management recommendation, attorney recommendation, I'm a yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you. Motion passes for number 21. Number 22, motion to approve landscaping enhancements at Green Lawn Townhomes with New Leaf Landscaping in the amount of $4,369.50. Green Lawn Townhome Replacement Reserve expenditure. Again, New Leaf is the vendor for that particular service area, and they are just updating what they are going to be wanting to do. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, David. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. Further conversation or discussion? Call the vote. Brian?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Diana?
Yes.
Mary Ann?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Number 23, motion passes. Number 23, motion to initiate the finding process. It used to be 30, now the number 17. Non-compliance items through the notification of the Covenants Committee meeting to confirm or reject the fine. Do I have a motion to initiate the finding process?
Yes.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, David. Discussion, again, if you're going to have a discussion, keep it specific to item numbers, not names.
This is standard as we do this so that it can move to covenants for their deliberation.
Quick thing, item number 16.
Okay, let's see. The new one or the old one?
The new one.
Okay, go ahead.
So it's a cross out of the
Right.
one above it.
Got
But this one is wide open. I'm surprised about that. Is that something that's daily? Does it not move? I don't
Susanna, do you have
know
any?
how to ask a question without saying it.
Well, no, I got you. Jessica, did you have any comments on this particular item?
Yes, I do. It's actually been there unmoved for the last week and a half. We reached out by email first, and there was some disputes on behalf of the owner as to why this was considered a commercial vehicle. I did reach out to the Covenants Committee for their review and support on this before it was presented to you, and ultimately they will decide whether it can be fined. And the owner is been made aware that they can come to the meeting to speak with the Covenants Committee.
Okay, and for clarification, it's
Go ahead, Ken.
I presume on the property, not in front of, next to, on county property or anything like that?
It is in front of the property on the street, on the county road.
So just to be clear, do we actually have jurisdiction for that item?
We do for commercial vehicles. In our charter, we do state that we do not permit that. And in this case, there's no question as to who it belongs to.
I agree with that entirely. And the more I'm asking about it, I'm actually wondering if it's who I think it might be. But regardless, it's it's an item that I don't want to waste our time on going after something that we don't have jurisdiction or that won't hold up. And that's what I'm wondering.
It's a good point. And I think in this case, if the owner were to dispute that it was theirs, we'd have trouble, but they've definitely agreed to it, and it's more of a dispute of why is it a commercial vehicle.
I just don't want to go throwing money if this ever escalated. So I mean, I'm good for it, keeping it on board. That's perfectly fine. But I don't want to be throwing attorney's funds at this without further review.
Right.
Got it. Thank you. Any other comment or questions from the board before we call the vote? Brian? Yes or no?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Diana?
Yes.
Mary Ann?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. All right, number 24, motion to approve the conversion of one fine to a specific assessment in S9. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second? Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Diana. I'm moving along. Okay, thank you, Diana. Do I have any further comments or questions regarding number 24? I call the vote. Brian?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Mary Ann?
Yes.
Kevin?
This is unbelievable. I need more information, but I guess
Yes or no?
it's a $5,000 fine for something very silly. So I'm just trying to understand what the actual situation is.
Well, they will
I
appeal,
need
and
more.
I was gonna say, it'll eventually come back to us anyway if they appeal. So it'll either it'll
I
resolve through the
know,
process.
but I
So
think
yes-
I think
so
every
yes
vote
or no?
matters, and I don't think I want to push something forward without details. So
I'm
that's
fine with that. Are you a
why
yes?
I'm
Are
having
you
a
a yes or a
challenge.
no then?
So I'll be a no because I don't
Okay.
have information about it.
Okay, that's fine. That's okay, Susanna. Don't worry about it. We're good. Well, I'll have you. What I would ask though, Susanna, is if you could please loop around to the board with just a quick email explanation will be helpful. Thank you. Diana, are you a yes or a no?
I'm a yes.
Thank you. I'm a yes. And then hopefully, Kevin, you'll be able to get the answer you need with regards to what your question is on that too. Number 25, motion to approve 6 CROA intent to lien letters to owners delinquent more than 1 assessment. Do I have a motion to approve?
Moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second. This is Diana.
Thank you, Diana. Do I have any comments or conversations from the board? Call the vote. Brian?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Mary Ann?
Yes.
Kevin?
I'm a yes.
Diana?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion passes. Number 26, motion to approve 5 service area intent to lien letters to owners delinquent more than 1 assessment. Do I have a motion to approve the 5 intent to liens for service area?
Yes.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Mary Ann,
Second.
I'll sec- oh,
Mary Ann, thank you. Mary Ann's a second. Perfect. Discussion or comments? I'll call the vote. Kevin?
Yes.
Mary Ann?
Yes.
Diana?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Number 27, motion to approve 2 interest and late fee waiver requests totaling $297.94 as requested by the owner and recommended by management. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Thank.
I'll be the second. Kevin can make it.
Okay, I was saying I thought I heard Brian. Was it Kevin? I thought I heard Kevin's first. So Kevin, your motion, and Brian, you said you're the second.
Sure.
Perfect. Okay, discussion or conversations? I'll call the vote. Kevin?
Yes.
Mary Ann?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Brian?
No.
Diana?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Number 28, motion to reject the 1 legal settlement offer as recommended by legal counsel and management. Do I have a motion to reject the offer?
So moved.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Do I have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Thank you, David. Conversation, questions?
I'm confused.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, I think
The
that's a,
documentation says accept, the motion says reject.
yeah, I think that's an administrative mistake by my fingers.
So what should the motion be?
It should say to approve.
Ah,
So
Yeah, the recommendation was to accept the offer. I don't know who typed that. It wasn't, I mean, it was me, but it was really not in my own head.
so
If we're having this,
we all live in delusion world
So-
sometimes.
so
We're good with
whomever
that.
made the
So
motion,
I was
whoever
like,
made
can we
the-
please
I guessed it.
reject? Perfect. Thank you very much. You're rescinding your motion, and the and whoever seconded.
I was a second, so
and
I'll
you're rescinding
rescind.
yours.
I'm rescinding mine.
Perfect. Mary Ann, would you like to make a new motion to approve the legal settlement offer?
Yes.
Thank you, Mary
I
Ann.
will-
David, would you?
I will second that.
Thank you. So on that note, thank you very much for clearing up the
Thank you.
confusion. Is there any other conversation or discussion before I call the vote?
what does the payment plan offer mean? I mean, there's no detail. Is it 6 equal payments or has anything been paid? I mean, normally we get a little more detail. As
6
Well,
months.
yeah, all I've seen is that they are offering, you know, once it's approved, to pay the amount of 1534 within 6 months.
wait a minute.
just within 6
Okay,
months of payment, there's no monthly payment plan or anything like that?
No, yes, an equal amount for 6 months.
I think we need to adjust the motion to say that.
Okay. I'll make sure that happens in the
Yeah,
future.
in the future, when you write out the payment plan offer, be a little bit, just whoever writes it, be a little more specific. So I'm happy with 6 equal monthly payments.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all we need.
So
Okay.
the motion is 6 equal monthly payments for the total.
Okay.
Is that accurate?
Yeah,
Motion in second? Are we
That
willing
works.
to edit that?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, then on that note, any other conversation regarding this from the board? Call the vote. Brian,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Diana,
Yes.
Mary Ann,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. On that, we have finished all of our agenda items, and it's only 8:15. We got a lot accomplished. Do I have any any board comments regarding anything or whatever? You have your free for all, but keep it quick because I want to go and end the call.
I have two
Anyone?
very, very minor things.
ahead.
One, I should have asked for action item 25. I see that this is an owner since 2020 for number 1 with a high dollar figure. I would just encourage, if it hasn't happened already, that management reaches out to that owner and advises them that they have more than one association that they are responsible for. I would hate for there to be confusion that goes the wrong direction if you guys haven't reached out to them already. And I apologize for not saying that out the gate with that situation. The second is I greatly appreciate the community condominiums update. I do feel as though we are very, we're forgetful that there is one more association within our community that we do not have updates on a monthly basis. I think this is a great asset to have in this board packet each month, but I think it's very important that we address every CROA paying member and every association that's attached to CROA with those updates as well. So just those two minor feedback items.
Which update? I don't think, what update specifically you're referring to, Kevin? I'm sorry. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. I didn't, which
I'm
one
sorry,
were you
on
referring to?
on the back end of the agenda, you have a condominium update, community condominiums update. And
Okay.
it does not appear as though it covers every association. In fact, I think it's only missing one association that's a condominium association in our community.
On
And
the
we've had this
agenda is
for-
what, on the
yeah,
agenda.
it's
Okay,
it's
perfect.
in the
Okay. I just want
monthly
to make
board
sure,
packet with updates
I just want
for the
to, I
board.
just want to make sure that, thank you. I just want to make sure, management, I'm assuming you're specific, you know, specifically what he's referring to? If you need,
Yeah, I think he's referring to the condominium update that's in the book
Yes,
packet,
town
Tom.
center condominiums are not a part of this update within the monthly update to the CROA board, and it hasn't been since this was introduced.
Okay. We'll be sure to add it.
thank you,
Thank you.
Susanna. Thank you, management. Any other comments or questions from the board? I'll open this up again, board comments. Kevin, or Brian, you look like you're about to speak.
Yeah, I got a question. I was at the CCDD meeting yesterday, so I couldn't go to the Canoa CJC. Anything of relevance there? Yeah, if anybody attended.
I was there, obviously. I didn't want to, you guys had this handled tonight. I didn't want to chime in, but I thought it was really great that CROA was the last to approve a lot of these joint, like the budgets and audits and other items. So, and especially just because I was told when I first got here, ironically, I just hit my 4-month mark, which I know seems a lot longer for some of you, but it was great to see. Based on when I came in, I was told that there was sometimes like conflict, and maybe conflict's the wrong word, but you know, different boards not seeing eye to eye. I've actually not seen something run as smooth that required 3 significant entities to all be on the same page. So kudos to our board members for their liaison work. So that's update. And both CJC and Canoa are appreciative of the RFP task force and their efforts. Susanna and I tried to kind of, you know, earmuff a little bit during that, but that was received well. And then the only big part that I think anybody would have missed was just the CNOA and CJC board members discussing Lexon's holiday ideas for the winter coming up, which, I mean, I think it'd be easier for us to either send out the publication by Lexon, because I don't want to speak on their behalf, but they cut back, I'd say at least 50%, if not more, of what they had initially presented. So the feedback from our CROA members to your board, and the board issued a letter on behalf of the CROA residents. It actually had significant impact on how CJC and CNOA kind of steered that conversation with Lexon. So
And CJC and CNOA approved proceeding based upon those changes?
They didn't take a vote. They wished Lexon all the best with all the modifications. However, they withheld a vote so that they could cancel it at any time if anything started to become either out of control, or if environmental conditions change, they retain their right to veto it at any time.
So
David,
Brian, it was,
is that,
Yeah,
am
I was gonna say,
recalling that?
thank you, Neil. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, so Brian, I did not attend the CNOA meeting. I did, and Diana and I were the CROA representatives to CJC. We did have an action item with the water tower, so there's some structural issues that were uncovered with this repair process, and it's going to require some more work. JR, I'm sure will be doing some announcement about what that is going to entail in the months to come. But there was a discussion item, not an action item, that has to do with what Lexon is planning for downtown. They have scaled back, I'd say more than 50%. I mean, there is no more snowing on the hour. So that is not happening. The snowing is going to be sporadic, and it's going to be right at the tree. So I think he said 2 nozzles. There will be no Santa. There will be the sleigh ride, because that can be one family at a time, and there will be the train, because that can be divided. What I raised was a concern on behalf of our residents, was whether Lexon would be willing to scale back, and whether they would be willing to even cancel if there's major changes with CDC guidelines, because they had already said they would modify according to CDC if that changed. If there was an explosion with cases. And then we got into this discussion about the masks. They were citing the county and the governor's statement that the mask ordinance could not be enforced. And to me, that's not acceptable. And so they said, yeah, we're going to be, checking on people and creeping crowds down. But I was pushing and saying, would you be willing to cancel tomorrow, or cancel for 24 hours, or cancel for 48 hours, or cancel for the duration of the holiday if things explode? And if there's a lot of outsiders and non-compliance, and it becomes, if you will, a spreader event. I think, and Diana and Neil can correct me, but I think Mike eventually said yes. I mean, I think it was, we'll evaluate. But I think the conclusion was he would, but it would take a lot to get there. But I am concerned about thousands and thousands of people outside our community showing up and not complying with the careful standards that we have implemented. So I don't know if that's answering your question, but that's what
David, can I add? Yeah, David, this is Diana. Can I add one thing?
Sure. That was my take.
They did. And you said it eloquently as usual, but they are doing no radio, no print, no TV advertising to draw the people in.
Yeah.
So there is not really anything announcing what's going on. But I agree with what you said, that it took a lot to get Lexon to say that they possibly would cancel if things got worse. And I'm still not 100% clear that they said they would. So
I'm not clear. I'm not clear. I think they were soft pedaling at that point. And there will be carolers too.
It sounds it sounds like the that basically CNOA left it open to where if there was any problems or any issues, or that they could just cancel it, which is what Neil had addressed. Is that accurate, Neil?
Vanessa, yeah, I mean, CNOA and CJC, because Paige is the president of both. He he did not request either board to make a motion to accept. And again, they retain the right to veto at any time. And I think that might, David, that might have been in response to the unwillingness from CROA to, or from Lexington to make a strong statement of, yes, we'll shut it down. And I guess we all forgot one other thing. I did. No ice rink.
Oh, yeah,
either.
no ice
That-
rink. Yeah, thank you.
So again, I'm not saying my report on this is not to advocate to or for Lexington or downtown. I think everything that was asked of them, they reworked it. They came back. We offered myself, Susanna, and JR. We offered our help and our support to try to get them to the finish line using our after action reports from our events that CROA has been doing. I think as presented, as long as it's taken serious, and that extra security measure that CROA said, or Lexington said that they're going to bring in, I think they've done as best as they can with the elements they can control. And if it's out of control, then CJC CROA can step in at any time and pull the plug.
Thank you, Neil.
Mhm.
Before I wrap things up here, is there any other comments from the board?
I actually do want to jump in on that. So
ahead.
I did attend the CJC meeting yesterday as well. I, for once, kept quiet because everybody understands my feelings about this situation. I think this board has made it very clear that we're uncomfortable with it. We went ahead and, I mean, there's a couple of things, and I don't believe this meeting was recorded. And frankly, that concerns me. It was?
I thought
Neil, could you confirm that?
I thought I saw the record button, but I don't know. It's worth checking.
Kevin, I'm sorry. I'll have to ask Patrick on that if we had that recorded. I thought all of our meetings were defaulted to record though.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know CROA meetings do not, and Paige isn't a fan of the spotlight. He's more the man behind the curtain. But it's definitely something that we, as a CJC portion, should encourage. I mean, even if you go ahead and just look at situations that are happening here in our backyard, the same type of structure is actually being ruled to 720 and different ways of operating. And CJC doesn't necessarily operate under that Florida statute 720. So it might be something that we, as a CROA board, as individuals and a board that's aware of this, should probably acknowledge and encourage that type of operation. I know CROA can do their own thing. My concern remains, regardless, that this event will continue. I believe there is one security detail that was mentioned would be added to this event. I do believe that the carolers that are going around to, I think, and I'm going to misquote it, but Mike Nunez, a Lexington representative, mentioned that they were going to have carolers to move people away from crowds, and they were going to go ahead and randomly do snow to prevent people, where in fact it's going to likely occur more often, encouraging more people to sit around longer and waiting. This board was very upset and very concerned about an event that was not sanctioned, unofficial, and happening for one day, and that's Halloween. And we threw up the flags, we put out the signs to go ahead and say we are not participating in Halloween. I'm frankly shocked that we're comfortable with this. I'm frankly shocked that people that worked for Disney, and I say worked past tense, including some CROA members who've been furloughed as well, are comfortable with this happening here. When they can't monitor this, control it in a place that has paid admission. I'm the first one to tell you I love Christmas. I love the events. I'm all about it. I will also tell you I personally am not somebody that would be overly scared, for lack of a better term, of getting the illness. But as I've mentioned before, it has affected my family and the passing of my grandmother as an example. So I acknowledge the seriousness behind it. And it's something that just really frustrates me when we put commerce before community. And that's clearly what's happening in this situation. I can tell you firsthand, as somebody that works and deals with Lexington on a daily basis, not many things happen out of the goodness of their heart. So this event, when they mentioned yesterday, they don't have to do it. They're doing it just for the community, just for fun. that's not the feedback I've been receiving from the community. I don't think this board has been receiving either. So I struggle with this. I struggle, and I frankly I respect Diana and David for jumping into it. In hindsight, I recognize that a motion likely should have been called by the CJC, one of our CROA members, to go ahead and cut it. I believe there were only 4 members on that call yesterday, and I believe a no vote would have failed that. But I do hope, and hope is not a strategy, but I do hope that we acknowledge this carefully and we, if necessary, go ahead and make that call, like David said. David asked it in several different ways, and I was impressed with the ways he asked the question, right down to, would you even turn the tree lights off if the event was out of control? And the response was, well, we can't move the tree. So I have a concern, and trust me, if I have a little PTSD with the integrity from Lexington and their representatives. So for the sake of our community, I wish that this only brings the community spirit high and not sick.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate your thoughts. I think it's fair to say this CROA board had sent a letter to CJC and CNOA. So I think we echo your concerns. It's not just you that is concerned about bringing in any type of a spreader event. So thank you very much for your thoughts and insight. I do want to recognize the fact that we have a fair amount of people still on this call, and we truly appreciate your commitment to the end of the process. So please, again, if you're on Spring Lake, if you have any feedback with regards to this evening, any concerns, anything at all, please reach out to the CROA board, to Tim, and he will forward things on to us also. And thank you to all of the committee members that are still on here. I see some faces from the technology committee and some people still on from Covenants and from the RFP. So thank you very much for hanging in there, and anybody that I may have missed. Is there any other board comments before calling for an adjournment? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, David.
Brian was talking, but he was on mute.
Diana, was that a
Good
second
idea.
I just heard from you?
Yes, ma'am, that was a second.
Thank you. And thank you all to the management team and for all of your dieheartedness. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank
Bye.
you. Good night.